We are two badass spiritual gangster real estate entrepreneurs manifesting our best authentic lives and spreading the good word.
You're listening to Manifesting with Morgan and Madeline.
Howdy.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hi.
Long time no see.
For real. I guess we should kind of explain what's happened in between the past few podcasts, even though we don't have anyone that's eagerly awaiting them yet.
Yeah, but it's part of the story.
Yeah,
the process.
So it's actually on point, too, because I did manifest a podcast studio in my own house.
Yeah, you did. Here we are.
This is our first time using the home studio, and...
Yeah.
You just noticed I adjusted my microphone to make it work better. We're going to be working through some kinks, but I feel really blessed to have been able to get this.
I mean, this I think is the dream come true. Like we were at step one, and now I feel like for everybody, I was telling you earlier, like I feel so much more relaxed here and so much more natural. I feel less inhibited, and I can just be like, woo!
Yeah.
Like more my,
For sure.
And I love, so Morgan sent me updated photos of this process as she was like cleaning this room out, and then her art and the couch and the microphones, and she went all the way with like high tech equipment, and it's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm pumped.
Well, so this week we are going to be discussing this is our third topic in manifesting, and it's another one of the foundation topics. Just to recap, so the first topic we covered was the foundation, which is just to kind of open your mind to unbecoming all the things that are no longer serving you, and just kind of accepting the fact that the first step in manifesting is doing the work to unbecome.
Yeah, absolutely. Just being willing.
Yes.
To unbecome. Because that's the biggest shift that has to take place for any of this other stuff to work. Like that quote, I can't remember who said this, but there was this woman, and she was like, I was willing to like die to everything that I knew, and in order to have a new life. And that I remember hearing that, and it changed my life. And I was like, wow. And I had to wrap my mind around a lot of what that meant. Like, okay, are you going to sell out? Or what does that mean? And it's like, no, what it means is release. Be willing to release, so that some parts of you are going to remain exactly the same, but they're just going to be better. And some things you're going to learn, and they're going to be new. But in order to do any of it, you have to be willing. So
exactly.
Step one.
So then the second episode, the second subject of manifesting that we covered was healing from the inside out. And we were just kind of focused on the fact that we live in a vibrational universe, and we get to choose the frequency in which we tune ourselves. And so whatever we tune in on our inside, our thoughts, our beliefs, our attitude, is what we're going to receive and manifest on the outside. And the frequency of your internal being is going to manifest itself in your external results.
Exactly. And the summary for me of that week was basically, I hate to use the word fake because I don't mean it in a way that's negative or like putting anybody down. But like when you know that what's going on inside of you is not what's coming out of your mouth, or like the actions you're taking, or it's not reflective, it shows up in your life. And it shows up both ways, when you're following your river, like going with your grain and not against your grain, it shows up in your life. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of the third foundational subject before we get into more specific aspects of manifesting. But another thing that I think is a really important concept to grasp is the importance of purpose and understanding what that means. So I guess I'll just kind of start with what that means to me, and kind of a little history of how I've come to my definition of purpose, and then we'll let Madeline comment on where she stands with the topic.
Perfect.
So I believe that our purpose is constantly revealing itself to us and the way that we get to see it is through applying our unique interests and talents and peeling away the programming that kind of distracts us or removes us from our internal truth, our authenticity, the things that make us unique. Mm-hmm. And so to me, purpose isn't a destination, it's a process.
Yeah.
And really our purpose is in the process of reconnecting to the source energy that made us, the God within us, whatever is comfortable to you, mm-hmm. to that greater power that runs through us and connects us all.
Yeah.
And the life source. So, yeah, to me, purpose is just literally the act of reconnecting with source energy so we can be a vessel through which it flows.
Yes. And you said something that really, I want to say again, I want to repeat. It's not a destination, it's a process. And purpose is not what other people tell us it is. It has nothing to do with anything external.
Precisely.
Period.
Yes.
Yes. Purpose, so much pressure on purpose,
yes.
in our society. And I think we want to be very clear that that's not the purpose that we're speaking about. We're not speaking about maybe a degree is part of your purpose. It's not or a job is part of your purpose, but those are not what we mean as purpose. We mean, what does the source want you to do? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is us. What do we want to do?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Period. Yeah.
So for me, I've read many books over the years
mm-hmm.
that I feel like every self-development book kind of glosses over purpose
mm-hmm.
and
for sure.
So
there's a lot of books on purpose.
Yes, for sure. And there's at least, everybody kind of gives their own definition. And I know like Eckhart Tolle is somebody that you and I both follow. Mm-hmm. And to me, his definition of purpose is more just being completely non-attached and present.
Yes.
and having no attachment to outcomes.
Yes.
And just being 100% connected with this moment and your higher truth.
Yeah, absolutely. He's very, very, he's very specific about that in a lot of his books. And that's something was very foreign for me the first time I tried to read. I don't know how you felt.
Oh yeah.
But I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, what does this mean? Don't expect things, don't have attachment. That was a very slippery slope for me at first until I experienced it, or until I could identify when I experienced it.
Yeah.
So,
it was like information that you had, and mm-hmm. then until you could really apply it in mm-hmm. real life, it was kind of a vague concept to grasp.
Exactly. And it was a concept that I could go back and identify other times that I had actually experienced it, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So maybe we can unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
What does it mean to be present? What does it mean to not be attached to outcomes and have those expectations, and why is that important?
Yeah. How does that connect to purpose? Being present and not attached to outcomes.
Okay. So for me, that sort of is the purpose.
Yes.
Almost. So what that means is if we want to channel, and if we want to be a vessel for purpose, which is the divine, the higher power, our own power, like you said, however you're comfortable identifying your source of energy, your source of life. If we want to show up to be able to spread that, like the love, if we want to connect with other people in that way, the only way to do that is to be there with that person in that moment. So if I'm thinking about yesterday and I'm preoccupied, or if I'm with another human and I'm thinking about what I have to do tomorrow, and if I'm not connected to the moment that I'm in, then I'm shut down. So it's like the water can't flow,
Exactly.
right? So it's like it's a blockage.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with thinking about yesterday and thinking about tomorrow. Like there's a time and a place for that. But when it becomes, this is why meditation is so important, because to clear your mind and to reset yourself to that place where you can be present is difficult.
Yes.
For a lot of people.
Yes.
I mean, myself included, and the society that we live in and the world we live in, we always have something like going on. Like all the time there's something to think about.
There's an alert going off
Yeah.
on our phone, our computer, our doorbell.
Yes.
Yep.
There's always something to distract us from being in the moment. And so I guess for me, step one is just to learn to be present. Like the non-attachment is almost like step two for me. So just to learn to, like, whatever it is, put your phone away. If you want to, and to do this with yourself, this doesn't even have to start with other people. Like this starts with yourself. Put your phone away for just a few minutes and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, I swear that sounds insane. That sounds like, oh my gosh, anybody can put your phone away for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like away. Like turn it on silent, put it in another room, close the door, like let it have a little breather. Let it have a breather.
Give your brain a chance to be awake but not doing anything.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Take a bath without your phone.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah, exactly. So how does being present align to purpose for you? I mean, how is that and non-attachment and that sort of philosophy?
I think for me, I agree 100% with what you said, but for me, in my own experience, if I don't give myself the time to be able to self-reflect and process information and have that time to open up my mind to receive guidance from the universe, I start to really get lost. And, a big part of these foundational concepts that we've been talking about and manifesting is just connecting with your truth. Mm-hmm. And I can't connect with my truth when I don't take that time to receive it. And so I think that's part of the being present. And then the non-attachment, you're automatically kind of setting yourself up for failure and putting yourself in a lower vibrational frequency when you attach yourself to an outcome. And it makes it that much harder to align with your purpose because you're focused on the outcome instead of the present moment where you're going to be able to receive guidance towards your purpose and be able to connect with it. Mm-hmm. If you're tied up in attachment to outcome, there's a block there. And I think to add a little bit more to this, I think the pursuit of purpose in itself is the definition of purpose to some degree. Yeah. And by even declaring that that's something that you're interested in pursuing, I mean, there's a million different definitions, but I think it all kind of you end up finding the same path or the same truth. Yeah. And that's automatic upping your vibrational frequency just by saying, what is my purpose? Or I feel like I have no purpose. Yeah. And having the willingness to start exploring that so that you can feel whole again.
Yes. Yes. This for me brings up, I think we talk about this, or I know I mention this often. I don't know if I have yet with I believe in like the Forrest Gump life. Okay. Yes. So it's important that I have felt a lot of pressure personally from a young age of like, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? And it's like, okay, those are important questions. Mm-hmm. But never did someone ask me, how do you want to change the world? Or what feels like your calling? Yeah. Those words were never used.
What sets your soul on fire?
What makes you happy? What makes you free?
Unique?
Yeah. What do you love to do? Mm-hmm. Those questions were never asked. Well, and forgive me if they were. Okay, I didn't hear them. Remember. I don't remember hearing them. God forbid. But what I remember feeling and interpreting from those types of sessions with questions and schools and parents and families and all the things, I remember feeling so much pressure. Mm-hmm. And that in itself detached me from purpose. Yes. Because there was so much pressure for me to make some like lifetime decision. And I want to really express how important it is to not do that to yourself. Yeah. Like, unless you are a little human who wakes up on his 5th birthday or her 5th birthday and says, I'm going to be a surgeon. And from that point forward, you play operation and read every medical book and you become a surgeon. And these people do exist, and thank God for them, because this is who I want to be my surgeon.
Like, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
We got to interview them and say, how aligned with you are you in your
How
truth?
long have you been wanting to?
When you were a child.
What was your favorite board game?
Yes.
If it was not Operation, you're not operating on me. Okay. So, I feel like, for most people though, that's not the only, I think that's a small percentage of the population, is a very linear process.
Yes.
Right? So they start here and they just very slowly achieve a goal, and that's wonderful. But the careers in which, and I use the word career, but the lives in which that particular linear approach is the most effective is a very low percentage of people.
Yeah.
So Forrest Gump, love him. He just was. If you've ever seen, I love me some Forrest Gump. If you ever watch Forrest Gump, he's just like, well, okay, I'm going to go do this today.
Yeah.
And there he was. And he was a professional athlete, and then he became a different type of athlete. Then he was a veteran, and then he was his life led him to all of these different places because he allowed himself to be in those places. And
his ego wasn't attached to a title. He just was. And he found himself in the next situation on his evolution. And
and he didn't care what anybody said or thought about it. He didn't need to. His purpose wasn't to prove anything to anyone.
Yes.
His purpose.
Maybe Janae.
Well, Janae. He did it all for her, and Bubba. He did.
Oh yeah.
But that was that was part of his purpose, was a place of love that came from. But it wasn't. It wasn't for ego, like you said. It was just a genuine way to show love and appreciation for those in his life. But that, for me, is the easiest way to explain the belief system that I follow.
I love it. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen Forrest Gump, please watch Forrest Gump and then rejoin us.
Or watch it through this lens and see what you can learn.
Absolutely. Please rewatch it through this lens and just understand. And, people, we joke about how, his IQ was low and all that. And it's like, well,
maybe he's smarter than us in other ways.
That's what I'm saying. That the mind will distract us from being in our present, in our worth, in our alignment, because the mind is very powerful and it's tricky, and yes. you have to know how to work with your mind and not against your mind.
Or because it can run you.
It will run you. Yep, it will run you. And the smarter that you are, the more susceptible.
Yes,
clearly not me. But the smarter you are, the more susceptible you are, right, to that sort of distraction.
Yeah, and that kind of parlays into another point I wanted to talk about, which is the animals and how you said, Forrest Gump just was. Right. To me, animals, their purpose is wired into their DNA. They don't have the consciousness to sit and reflect and ask the question, what is my purpose? They just are.
Right.
And they do what they were put on this earth to do, and they're just perfect little creatures. Sure, I'm sure they have some trauma and do some weird things as a response, but I think that's what separates man from animal. And one of the easiest ways for me to connect with the present moment is to be with one of my dogs or be with nature and animals, because speaking of I think that they kind of remind us of that, of how to just be and be present and not attached to outcomes. Marley, the dog that isn't yelling at you right now, whenever he gets in the car, he doesn't care where he's going. He's just happy to be in the car. Exactly. And then when we get where we're going, he's happy to be there.
Yes.
And I love having that little reminder, and it makes me appreciate my dogs even more.
It's
because
so true.
It's such a value to have that little sweet thing that I can just connect with and check in with and not be attached to what's going on around me.
Right. I think we, as a culture, to be fair, it's like really difficult. He's okay. He's okay. Hi, Steve. Steve knows we're talking about him. And he's like, look at me. Steve's the boss.
For those who are not watching and listening, I have a little blonde Yorkie mix that's on Madeline's lap, licking her face. Yes.
Oh, my God. I think he just feels like he needs to be heard.
Yeah. Well, we'll just carry on, and he can.
I don't know. It's so true, though. Like animals are just, they're incredible. I didn't know how cool kids and animals were until I had them.
Yeah.
Like, I was not a person who was all about it until I'm serious. I'm just being honest.
Madeline got a dog, and I saw her posting it on Instagram several times, and I was like, that has to be a friend's dog. That has to be a friend's dog. Like, she loves freedom and like traveling, and I'm like, what?
Yeah. But but that, what you said and what we're speaking about is part of how that came about, is because I stopped fighting what I felt like was an external definition of freedom, and I started to really hone in on what my personal definition of freedom feels like for myself.
Yeah.
And that freedom, having a child and a dog, where I am now, I feel more free than I did before, in a different way.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that another time. But I'm with you on Forrest Gump and on the dogs, on the animals, and like I just think that it's really important to appreciate our culture. I thank God every day. I mean, that I'm America, that I was born in. I do. I really do.
For sure.
Love my country. Have absolutely nothing. We're not going to do that. But I also think it's important as humans, like no matter where we're raised and born and all the things, to just acknowledge what we have done. And it's like we've disconnected totally from nature. That's why there's such an influx now of people wanting to go back to nature, because it's like we're waking up.
Exactly.
It's like all this robotic tendency and all these like, sort of streamlined ideas of what success were have put us into a deep, deep coma as a society. And now all of a sudden it's like slowly like ping, ping, we're starting to like revisit that this does not work.
Yeah, because our spirits aren't fed, our souls aren't fed, and we are starting finally. This information is very mainstream at this point,
right.
And so we're learning and growing as a society as well, and recognizing that we do have. There are more options than just working a 9 to 5, so you can get your healthcare benefits.
Right.
There are also that. I feel like every day there's probably hundreds of people all over the world that realize, hey, my purpose isn't tied to my career or my title or being a mom or being an American or whatever. Really, and that's why we've been told like to label.
Yeah.
But. And then we try to find our identity in that label, and that's not where it is. And that's why we keep feeling lost and searching for something more, because
it's the whole like good intentions.
Yes.
I think we all have the best intentions to find purpose by connecting what we think is connecting, which is, well, I'm a Panthers fan, or I'm a whatever, I'm a this, I'm a blonde, I'm a brunette. There are so many ways that we find what we see as what we think is connecting, but the reality is that those are all separating us.
Yes,
and
exactly.
the more separate that we are, the less we're present and the less we're able to let God, I'm using the term God, work through us for our purpose and for the higher purpose, which is to freaking love one another, man. Like, we're here to do that.
Yes.
We are here to do that. And amongst other things, it's not the only thing, but I think that's like the biggest thing.
Yes.
And if anything gets in the way of that, then it's not in alignment with our purpose. And the more that we separate and the more that we have these preconceived notions of what it feels to be part of something that pits us against other groups, if you will.
Yeah.
The more we're taking steps backwards, is my opinion.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with having a team you love. go Hornets all day.
But like loving your city or your country or whatever.
Anything
but
like
that is not going to be.
That's not purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's good that we're unpacking this because it's good to define purpose, right?
Yeah.
To define what purpose is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
so
I think we could sit and talk about this for hours and hours. But this is kind of another little foundation to manifesting is, to me, the most important thing to recognize in this episode is just the fact that purpose is an ongoing act. It's not a destination.
Right.
It's a thing that's always going to be unfolding and revealing itself to you, and you'll know when you've found it because you will feel so aligned with your truth and so connected with the universe and other people, and it's a feeling that I wish that every person in this world could feel. And I won't stop spreading the good word and refining myself as a person until that's achieved.
Yeah, it is. And it's hard to explain, but it's just, it's a thing that makes you feel good.
Yes.
And, we don't want to use good and bad a lot because there's ups and downs in purpose.
Well, we all know what good feels like, though.
But it feels good and it wakes you up.
Yes.
And it makes you feel, and the non-attachment part of the purpose is so important because, freaking newsflash, you don't have to commit to a feeling of purpose for the rest of your life. Your purpose will change.
Yes.
It ebbs and it flows and it looks different as time goes by. And as you refine one part of your purpose, another part emerges. And some people, like we said, the 5-year-old surgeon, some people are able to refine the same stone, and that's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not in any way saying that there's anything wrong with that.
Yes.
As long as that is what continues to light them up.
Yes.
Because we all get to a point where things become stale.
Yes.
And commitment is good. Being in a place of contentment is good, but being stale is not good. No. We don't want to be dull and dead. We want to be on fire. We want to be alive. We want to feel.
Exactly.
We want to feel stuff.
Yeah, and I mean this aligns too with one of my philosophies, which is just that. I mean, this isn't my personal philosophy. This is something that a lot of different people say, but I feel like we were given these unique callings and interests, and it's the way of the universe refining us. We're called to do something, and it's going to require a little bit of growth and kind of remolding and a little bit of discomfort so that we can evolve to be better. And then we get to that thing or that next level or whatever, and then all of a sudden our interests change a little bit and we're called to do something else that's going to require our growth and refining.
Exactly.
So and that process to me is what purpose is.
Yes, I agree completely. It's just the thing that lights you up.
Yep.
It's the thing that lights you up.
So Mastin Kipp, he's one of my favorite thought leaders. His book is I think it's 40 days, and each day you have an activity in the book that helps you reclaim your power, and kind of the whole purpose of it is to kind of identify your purpose. But in his theory about purpose, he thinks that purpose is a set of feelings that you most align with.
I freaking love that.
Yeah.
Okay, say more about that.
So the book kind of guides you through how to identify these I believe it's 3 or 4 like core feelings, and then that helps you kind of unpack the activities and places and environments that can help you connect more with those feelings.
Okay.
But to me, though, that aligns once again with what I said before about how we're interested, called to things, we have different interests, and so that's a means of refining us to expand and grow as we achieve them. It could be the same applies with pursuing a certain emotion.
Yeah.
So for me, I remember one of my emotions was connectedness.
Yes.
And
oh my God. Yes. Thank you.
So
I'm so happy
the pursuit of connectedness and the things that are going to make me feel connected.
Yeah.
That is my purpose.
That's purpose. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. 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 Because so often it's like a purpose is something tangible. or a thing.
Or label.
A label.
Yeah.
Or even just like, I like to sew.
Yeah.
Cool. That can be a purpose, but also it can be, I like to freaking talk on the phone.
Yeah.
I like to check up on my homies. I like to do that.
Yeah.
That is a purpose.
Yes.
And it's very important to honor every little thing that you enjoy doing and not dismiss anything on that palette.
Yes.
You know, put it all there and be really, really confident and happy to pursue what may seem like the smallest, most stupid society, like, you know, anything that you may have dismissed in the past, pursue those things.
Yes.
Because more likely than not, those are the things that you're most passionate about. Because I don't know if you feel this way, but there's also been times that purpose has revealed itself to me in a sense of disappointment.
Oh, yeah.
So lots of times, like even as a kid, maybe I didn't know specifically, like, this thing is what I really like to do. But I sure knew when I was told I couldn't do it, that I felt really disappointed. Oh. And that helped me understand, like, hey, why do I feel so down about this? You know? Yeah. And guess what that led me to? One of my purposes is freedom.
Oh, yeah.
Freedom to make my own freaking choices.
Exactly.
You know, that's a purpose.
Yes. I believe that was one of my 30 feelings too. That's so funny.
Yeah. And the more that we practice, like these things don't have to start materially, kinesthetically, tangibly. They can start intellectually. They can start with reading a book. If you've got shit, you know, like we talked about steps 1 and step 2, the unbecoming and healing.
Yes.
Got to do those things before we get to purpose.
Yes.
Because you got to clear all that stuff out. You got to clear it out so that you can be free, an open vessel for purpose.
Exactly.
Because sometimes you might not even want to get up out of the bed in the morning. And you're like, how am I supposed to know my purpose when I'm just like so miserable, right? So we start to unbecome, we start to heal. And then once we get over that sort of like neutrality, it's like, oh, okay, I want to talk to my friend today. Or I want to take a walk today.
Exactly.
Or I want to just sit in the sun today. Yeah. Or I want to listen to a song. I want to sing a song today. I want to take a bath today. Those things are all purpose.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God, Queen, I have chills.
And
it feels so good to say those things.
This is one of my favorite. I love talking about it. I love hearing what other people think about it. But when it comes to manifesting, when you're aligned with your purpose and your truth, that is when the universe makes it rain blessings.
Yeah.
And right before a little blessing comes through, you're going to get a little bit of challenges to check and see if you're ready for it. And if you stay true to your purpose, those little hardships at the finish line, you get it every time.
Yeah, man. And you know what? Ain't nobody here to judge what anybody else's purpose is. There's absolutely no freaking like rule book to this.
Exactly.
There's no rules. Only you know.
100%.
Yeah, you want to.
So we are going to share a story.
Yeah, let's read it.
Like we do each week. Bear with me. We are learning the new equipment. Each week in Manifesting with Morgan and Madeline, we share a story from a listener who used the global pandemic in 2020 as an opportunity to up-level personally or professionally. And this week, I will be reading the COVID up-level testimony from a friend of mine I met about 9 months ago. She was a member of a mastermind group I was in, and we got to get pretty close, learning about each other's goals and aspirations. So I'm really excited to share this story. And her name is Brittany Kanaski. She's 30 years old, and she lives in Charlotte. And her profession is she is the founder and coach at Hello Velocity. So I'm going to just read the questions that I asked her and her responses.
Perfect.
How did you up-level as a result of the hardships created by the pandemic and lockdown? She said, I consciously chose to quit my stable corporate job in October 2020. After my partner and some friends were laid off, I found myself wishing that I was laid off too, so that I could dedicate more time to my side hustle. It also hit me that while people were going through so much uncertainty and fear during the pandemic was exactly when they'd need a life coach to help them navigate it. My question, what were the circumstances leading up to March 2020? She said, I just had started my business as a side hustle in January. I had filed for my LLC paperwork in February and even hosted my first in-person workshops on March 10th, literally the day before COVID was declared a global pandemic. My question, how did you stay motivated and focused throughout the process? She said, honestly, I didn't the whole time. March through May, I barely spent any time on my business. I had to take care of I had to take a lot of time for myself. My day job got really busy because of the pandemic, so my focus was there and learning to just cope mentally with all the fear, changes, and ongoing social and political unrest. Once I learned how to take care of myself in the new world, I was able to recommit to my business. I worked with a dream client over the summer, and it really motivated me about how important my work is. She motivated me to find more clients like her and to really make an impact on the world. Next question. What challenges came up and how did you overcome them? She said, one major challenge was not getting as many clients as I thought I needed before I quit my job. I had this idea that I needed to have a steady roster of clients before going on my own in order to sustain my standard of living. But this was just fear talking. I had a savings account with 6 months of living expenses, so I knew I had time to build up the business before needing to pay myself. Next question. What were major lessons you learned that you think may benefit others? She said, one major lesson was that nothing is going to look exactly like what you plan it, and that is always for the best. The universe has better things in store for us than we could ever come up with in our heads, so it's best to just sit back and trust the process. I'm also learning to define success on my own terms, not based on anyone else's expectations, societal standards, or stories we've been fed. For instance, there's a lot of noise online right now about growing a 6-figure business, and that was putting a lot of pressure on me. But then I realized what's really important to me is simply having the freedom and flexibility to travel whenever I want and work when I want to. So I journal about my wins each week to keep in check with my ultimate goals. Last week, one of my wins was that I napped twice during the week.
That's awesome.
Love it. And this is such a perfect story for the purpose. Yeah.
This is the story. Wow, there's no coincidence there, huh?
Not at all. I love that her lesson was not to be attached to a plan. I love that she kind of says, that she ended up manifesting something better than what she expected, right. But she had to kind of get out of her own way and receive it. But I can speak for Brittany and her company, Hello Velocity. I believe that she is aligned with her purpose. Her social media game is on point, and when you talk to her, she just shines a bright, shining light, and people respond to that and want more of that, and you can tell she's connected to her purpose because of her aura and her vibe. It communicates that when you meet her or talk to her.
Oh, I love it. When you were reading, I was thinking a couple things. She mentioned just like her win was the nap. Like that's my favorite thing. But because it directly correlates with exactly what it is that we're talking about. Like the pressure of it being a 6-figure income. Who says that it has to be maybe it should be 7, 8, 9. Maybe it 2 is fine. Maybe one, like there's no one way here. It's about what we need on a personal level to do the things that we want to do. So she says, I want to work when I want, and I want to travel when I want. Well, she's achieved that.
Yep.
That's purpose. That's alignment with her purpose.
Exactly.
And it's not about us like flexing on somebody and trying to make anybody else feel bad, or trying to compare the quote success that we have in this like measurable way when it comes to finances. That's not what this is at all. Sometimes part of the purpose might need to be, I can prove to myself that I can make a lot of money, because that helps up level in another way.
Exactly.
Sometimes the purpose might be like, I can prove to myself that I can live off hardly anything.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
I love that.
That's
exactly.
true.
Exactly.
And I really, really also want to say that sometimes the purpose is a corporate job.
Yeah.
And that lights you up because sometimes.
Oh no, I'm just thinking about my little experience in the corporate world and how I busted my ass to get there.
Yeah.
And I got there, and within a week I was like, oh my gosh, what did I sign up for? I'm going to be stuck here for a year before I can leave without messing up my resume. But you know what? I had been so programmed that's where I needed to go in life.
Yes.
And then I went there so that I could strip that programming away and pivot as quickly as possible.
That was the disappointment moment.
Yeah.
It was the build up, and then you finally got there and you were disappointed because it was not what you needed or thought that it was going to be. And that was good.
Yeah, but here's another thing about manifesting is when you hit those little disappointing moments in the pursuit of purpose and you realize, oh, I went down this road. I was called to go down this road. I got to the end of it and realized this isn't for me.
Right.
Yeah, you can be bummed out for a minute. That's fine.
You should.
But I've seen so many people go and try something and hit a dead end, and they just give up.
Yeah.
And they stay depressed, and they stay small and scared. And the universe responds to somebody who can admit defeat, but then get back on the horse and keep riding,
Heck yeah, absolutely. And that's the permission. Giving yourself that permission to like ultimately, the word fail, fine, but try. The word try, like giving yourself permission to not have an attachment to what the outcome may be of the thing that you think is lighting you up.
Yes. Which is this podcast,
Exactly. Exactly.
This is like a perfect example for me. I have no attachment. I would love for something cool to come out of it, but right now, this is the funnest thing I have going on in my life.
Me too. It's a relief, and the balance is necessary. But yeah, like for somebody who maybe needs. There are times that a corporate structure or something like that does provide purpose. It provides stability. It provides a lot of things that someone may need. And then there's other times it's like it's the opposite direction. This week is about honoring what feels good to you.
Yes.
What you need personally on a personal level. What lights you up. If it lights you up to get up in the morning, make your coffee, and drive yourself into that office, freaking do it. That's awesome. You know?
Yep.
If it lights you up to take a nap in the week, do that. Seriously. And I agree. Just not having and the more that you align with the idea of purpose and the more that you practice, the more that you can sort of, like, I don't know how you feel, but like the corporate example you just gave, when you worked so hard, you've been so programmed. Now you know that about yourself and you're like, nope, not going down that road. Like I already know.
Yeah.
So it shaves off a lot of time.
Yeah. And it wasn't a failure.
No,
it was I learned and I evolved.
Exactly.
And it was great.
Which is why I don't want to use that word. And I think the pressure of society, of us having this one thing that we're going to do with our whole, we're going to go to school and do this one thing or what have you, is too much pressure.
Yeah.
Take it. Be
so unsustainable. It's
live
so
like WWFD. What would Forrest do? For real.
Oh my gosh.
What would Forrest do?
Oh gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, so I just want to kind of conclude this episode with talking about some action items that people can do.
Okay,
and
perfect.
I'll start with some of the things that I feel like help to get to know yourself and identify the things that set your soul on fire and align with your own personal truth, because those are the activities that are going to help you get to the pursuit of purpose. And aligned with it. So.
It's nice to have tools in the toolkit.
Yes, I'm
These
all
are the
about tools. I don't,
Yeah.
if you can know what something means, but if you can't apply it, then it's useless.
It's kind of irrelevant. Yeah.
So one thing I had is think back on your childhood. What were the things that lit you up before life happened? What are the unique qualities, interests, passions, callings, etc., that are your biggest sources of joy? So think about these things. Write them down as you're going through the week. Like start to make note of the things that really you feel so happy, and even if it's like a brief moment, write it down.
Yeah.
And start to pay attention to that. And then start to think about, what do you spend most of your time doing or thinking about outside of your regular responsibilities like work and stuff? Like where does your mind wander when you have downtime? What Instagram accounts are you following? What magazines are you reading? What kind of movies do you like? What kind of podcasts do you listen to? That's all going to give you little clues towards your truth. And then if you can follow that truth and start to connect with those things that are passionate and you're passionate about, the things that are unique to you, that's where the purpose reveals itself.
The way that you feel when you listen or watch or do, the way that you feel, even if it's disappointed, like we said, that's important to notate too, because feeling like, when you feel like this lights me up, that's great. But some people, I think, might not quite even be there yet.
Yeah.
So it might be like, make a note of when you felt disappointed.
Yeah.
And that will help you in the same way.
Yeah. It's the place not to go.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
But I mean, another thing, if you are in a place in your life where you are questioning your purpose, is Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth is my favorite of his books. And then that book I was mentioning earlier, Claim Your Power by Mastin Kipp, it covers purpose really well. And one that I read a few years ago a couple of times was Purpose Driven Life. The author's last name is, or I think it was Rick Warren is the one who wrote that. And I mean, that one's, you see it at every thrift store, on every bookshelf in America, because it was very popular, but it had some truth to it. And if you are leaning towards Christianity, that's a great little activity book, more or less, to identify with your purpose.
It is.
too.
It's a journaling, right? You do a daily thing.
It's another 40-day journal thing. And I love those type of books. Claim Your Power by Mastin Kipp is the same way. If you can hold yourself accountable for 40 days to do this little activity, guess what? The universe responds to that too.
It does. That in itself is purpose.
Yes.
Because it's the commitment to yourself to know that, like, hey, I'm going to do this one thing for myself every single day, and that's making me more in alignment with myself, which makes me a better human for everyone else too.
Exactly.
Which is purpose.
Yes.
That's all it is. It's real simple, y'all.
Yeah.
It really is.
So do you have any other suggestions or tools or activities that you could recommend for people to do to feel more aligned with their purpose? The list of tools and activities that you just read off is actually perfect. I don't see anything outside of it. I just have more comments within those things. Like we said, making sure that you listen to your disappointments just as much as you do what lights you up. Because our brains are wired sort of in a way that we're gonna respond to something. So not putting so much pressure on yourself for it to be a quote good thing. Just pay attention to what you respond to. Yeah. Period. Yeah. That's like a big thing. And then if journaling feels like it's overwhelming or something, just my biggest advice is within these tools is to commit to something. Yes. Very small. Yes. And to take pressure off what that looks like. Right? Non-attachment. It doesn't have to look a certain way. You don't have to have some huge breakthrough the first time you sit down with, a book. It doesn't have to feel that way. Just trust the process. Just believe and trust the process, and just know that by doing these things, you are in the process. You are in your purpose. Exactly. Just by doing these things. So, yeah. Well, sounds good. I love it. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and come back next time. Yeah. We'll
See and talk to y'all soon.
All right.